Not every negative account on a credit report should be disputed, even though that is often the first instinct people have when something unfavorable appears. Many consumers are taught that disputing is the primary way to deal with credit issues. So when a negative item shows up, the assumption is that immediate action is required. The problem with that assumption is that credit reporting systems are not designed around urgency. They are designed around reporting cycles, verification processes, and time. When a dispute is filed, it does more than challenge an account. It initiates a formal review process within the system, and that process can produce different outcomes depending on timing, reporting behavior, and the type of account involved. A dispute is a useful tool, but it is not a default strategy, and treating it as one removes important context from the decision. In some situations, disputing a negative account can be helpful and appropriate. In other situations, it may have little effect. And in some cases, disputing too early can actually increase risk by reinforcing an account that might otherwise have become less relevant as time passes. What matters most is not simply whether an account is negative, but what role that account currently plays within the overall credit profile. Some negative accounts are already declining in influence, some are inactive, some are reported consistently and easily verified, while others may contain inaccuracies, inconsistencies, or gaps that change how they should be approached. Treating all negative accounts the same ignores these distinctions and often leads to unnecessary frustration. When a dispute is filed, the reporting entity is prompted to review and confirm the information it has on record. And this is where many people misunderstand what verification actually represents within the credit system. Verification does not mean that the information is correct in a broader or consumer-friendly sense. It simply means that the furnisher was able to confirm the data they currently have on file at that moment. That distinction is important because a verified account can still be harmful, and a verified account can still continue to affect outcomes even when it is accurate but unfavorable. In some cases, the act of verification itself gives an account renewed strength within reporting systems, increasing its durability rather than weakening it. This is why disputing without understanding exposure, timing, and likelihood of change can unintentionally make an account more entrenched. Credit systems favor consistency, not fairness, and they respond to documentation rather than intent or expectation. Many people are never taught to evaluate this trade-off and are instead encouraged to act quickly without understanding how timing affects results. Waiting is often misunderstood as doing nothing, but in credit decision-making, waiting can be a deliberate and protective choice. There are situations where time alone reduces impact, situations where acting too soon increases visibility, and situations where immediate action makes sense. The difficulty lies in knowing which situation applies, and blanket advice fails because it ignores that complexity. Another common misunderstanding involves the difference between having a right and achieving a desired outcome. Consumers generally have the right to dispute information they believe is inaccurate or incomplete, but exercising that right initiates a process without guaranteeing improvement. Rights provide access to action, not assurance of advantage. Effective credit decisions consider consequences before acting, weighing potential benefits against possible downsides while accounting for how the system responds rather than simply what is permitted. Speed often feels productive, but speed does not always protect outcomes, and in many cases, clarity and timing matter more than activity. Credit strategy exists to support this kind of thinking by helping people understand trade-offs before deciding whether to act, wait, or do nothing for the moment. Sometimes disputing is the right move, sometimes waiting is safer, and sometimes restraint prevents unnecessary complications that cannot be undone later. Better credit outcomes are usually the result of calm, informed decisions made with an understanding of timing and risk rather than pressure or expectation. And this is why certainty is rarely possible in credit outcomes. Credit reporting systems are probabilistic, not deterministic. The same action can produce different results depending on timing, reporting behavior, and the internal processes of furnishers and bureaus. Two people can dispute similar accounts and experience very different outcomes, not because one followed the rules better, the system responded differently. This uncertainty is often misunderstood, and leads people to assume that unsuccessful outcomes are personal failures rather than structural responses. Understanding that uncertainty exists is itself protective because it encourages restraint and reduces impulsive decision-making. When people recognize that credit outcomes are influenced by variables outside their control, they are more likely to focus on decisions that reduce exposure rather than chase guaranteed results that do not exist. This perspective shifts the goal from forcing outcomes to managing risk. Credit strategy is built around this understanding. It does not promise certainty, speed, or guaranteed improvement. It provides a framework for thinking clearly in an environment where outcomes are conditional and timing matters. When decisions are made with that awareness, people are less likely to overreact, less likely to create unintended consequences. If you want structure around decisions like these, credit strategy exists. If not, this explanation stands on its own and is more likely to preserve long-term stability even when short-term results are uncertain.